Good evening and welcome to the 44th meeting of the Milton Planning Board, fiscal year 2025. At this time, I would like to now call the meeting to order and introduce members and the staff.
Cheryl Tagayas, Secretary.
Sean Fahey, member.
Meg Yieldfield, member.
Jim Davis, member.
And Meredith Hall serving as chair. We have our administrative items. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is for June 12th, but we have been asked by Tom Caldwell and the Warrant Committee if we could attend next week at some point to discuss our MBTA zoning article. And it sounds like the best date might be if members are available next Thursday at 7:30. That works best. And I'll check in with Tom Caldwell and let him know on the 29th. Next item, and just to let people know that there was, for those of you who've joined us on Zoom, there had been a posting in the Milton Times for a public hearing on all of our zoning articles for this evening. There was some improper wording that needed to be corrected, so that those public hearing on those articles will be June 12th as well. So just for those of you who are on for that purpose. Julia, is there a staff update? Anything you have?
Nope.
Okay.
I think we're set.
Okay, great. So now, at this time, we can reopen our public hearing for 2 Elliott Street site plan approval, continued from May 13th. And we can welcome the team. It should be Ned, JD Wild, if he's on. Let in?
Yep, I'm here.
Great. Welcome back.
Appreciate you guys letting me in. Thank you. I believe Ned is here as well. I don't know if he's logged in yet.
He was in the Zoom. I think he's coming in right now.
I'm here.
Great. Welcome.
Looks like I'm here twice.
Yeah. You're doubly covered. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is our, I think, third night before the board with respect to this application for site plan approval. I think you agreed at the last hearing that you would continue to this evening for the purpose of considering a decision. We don't have any new information to present. We presented, I think, everything that was responsive to earlier questions and concerns for the board. So I'm hopeful that the board is ready to vote favorably to approve the decision. I can share screen if that's helpful, and we can walk through the decision. It's fairly short. It's very consistent with the format for site plan approval decisions that the board has historically done. So I can do that if you'd like.
That would be great. Yes.
Rather, so if I have the ability. Yeah. Here we go. You'll see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's essentially a fairly straightforward decision pursuant to section 12-4 of chapter 175 of the general bylaws, known as the zoning bylaw. Board would vote hereby grant site plan approval for the development of a retail food market, an outdoor patio, 2 Elliott Street, here and after the property as specified herein. Provides the date of the application and the hearing, the supplemental narrative that was filed, a site plan containing 3 sheets, an existing conditions plan, a proposed conditions plan, and a proposed conditions plan that contained a lighting schedule that was a part of it. In addition, architectural plans submitted by GPH Design, as well as images, cut sheets, and other renderings that were contained in 2 slide decks presented to the board at hearings on April 24 and May 13. Those constitute the totality of the filings that were made with respect to this application. Brief description of the project, which is the renovation and adaptive reuse of a formerly vacant retail banking facility located at 2 Elliott Street into a neighborhood-oriented food retail market. Project will convert the bank to a quick-service fresh food market with the addition of exterior patio seating areas under a pergola on the westerly side of the building at the corner of Elliott and High Streets, and the northerly and easterly sides of the building at the corner of Elliott and Adams Street. Patio will be composed of pervious paver materials. Modifications result in net neutral change in impervious surface area. Lighting will be installed as shown on the site plan, consistent and compliant with the standards of Dark Sky International. As you'll note, on one of the detail sheets in the slide presentation, there was the 4 lighting fixtures that will be proximate to the 2 front entrances will be gas fired lights. The balance will be electric. There'll be no expansion of the building footprint. The project will preserve 7 existing on-site parking spaces, including 1 accessible space, and utilizes available on-street parking. All proposed improvements are contained within the existing lot boundaries. Also note, I don't note here, but there is a bicycle accommodation on the property as we outlined the location with a modification to one of the plans 2 weeks ago, or last week, excuse me. Cheryl had added this next provision, which we accepted. The application was filed on March 11. Public hearing was held April 24, May 13, and this evening, May 22, which date the hearing was closed and the planning board voted its decision. The decision itself says that you voted to grant site plan approval in accordance with the site plan and the related application materials. Planning board finds that the proposed modifications to the property, if performed in conformance in accordance with the site plan and project details as shown in Exhibit A, will result in the preservation and maintenance of the historic structure while enhancing public-facing elements, including signage, landscape, and outdoor seating. The plan integrates walkable, pedestrian-friendly access consistent with town goals. Cheryl added this next provision, which we accepted. The planning board has reserved the specific power to amend. The board may allow minor modifications of the site plan or construction details that do not alter the intent or conditions of the approval. Major modifications will require a new site plan review application. The board has the sole discretion to determine whether the proposed site plan modification is minor. Failure to comply with the site plan shall subject the applicant to zoning enforcement action in accordance with remedies set forth in General Laws Chapter 48 and other appropriate legal remedies. Finally, the site plan approval and a copy of the site plan will be recorded with the Registry of Deeds at the applicant's expense within 30 days of the date when this site plan approval becomes final, and a copy of the recorded document with recording information shall be provided to the town planner. The remainder of that page is blank, and we come over to the next page where we have signature pages, signature lines, and then Exhibit A, 2 components. One is the site plan itself containing the 3 sheets delineated above, and then project details, including the project narrative with attachments, supplemental project narrative, slide deck dated April 22, and the slide deck dated May 13 with all of the details, and the site plan and project details we found on file with the planning department. And that is the simple, straightforward, but consistent with the approach to site plan approval historically undertaken by this board.
Any questions?
I have one going back to what we talked about a moment ago before we had Ned and JD. Ned, and probably a question for JD. JD, can you explain the pergola one more time to us? It's referred to in the decision as a pergola. I just want to make sure that I understand it. It's a pergola, in my mind, is something that's an open overhead structure, but I don't think it's open. I think it's closed, or it's sometimes open, sometimes closed. Can you just explain it to us one more time?
Sure, Sean. So it has an automated louvered roof, so you can close it when it's raining. So it is a weather-tight structure. So I had mentioned in some of the earlier meetings that one of our goals was to try to accommodate patio seating for more months of the season in the Northeast. So we decided to invest in a more expensive solution, which involves a louvered roof system. So it stays open for majority of the year and majority of the weather conditions. And then when it rains, you have the ability to push a button and it closes and becomes a waterproofed system.
Okay.
John,
Okay.
I can add with a louvered roof, if that's helpful.
I don't want to, Cheryl, you were concerned that there'd be a difference between the plan and the decision?
I think if the decision says pergola with a louvered roof, that's okay, as long as the word pergola remained,
Yeah, yeah,
because the
yeah.
pergola's in the drawings.
Yeah.
And you don't want to refer it back, but if you want to add louvered, seems okay to me.
So if you look right here, I'll highlight, I've added pergola with a leftward pergola, but with a louvered roof.
So my only concern with that is what if he decides not to go with that type of pergola? Then he would have to come back and change it or adjust it?
That's the reason I put in the minor
Yeah,
language,
okay.
that would be considered a minor, which wouldn't require a new hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So the minor, that description that you put in there gives him the latitude, JD the latitude to make a minor change.
Yeah, but what would happen typically is, in the past, the planning director would say whether they thought it was minor or not. And some planning boards have decided that they'd rather make the decision than the planning director. So that's why it's in there as the planning board, just to give the opportunity for it to come. And then the board would say, we agree, this is minor, and doesn't require a new application, then we approve it.
Okay.
Like there were times when things like that have been done on other site plan approvals. But remember, we ran into the situation where we hadn't reserved the right at the Milton Marketplace to amend previously.
Right.
Our new site plan approval has it, but this was filed prior to that being
Sure,
adopted.
exactly, the
So that's why the language was added. So I think we're covered with that language if he does change it. I'm fine either way, as just pergola, but if you want to add those words, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, if no one else objects, and if JD and Ned are good with it, I think it better describes what it is, but I'll leave it up to the board. If you guys are okay with it, I'd like to add those words.
Okay.
Sure, and on that subject, just under the project details, I don't know, have you determined exactly which, do you have cut sheets for what you're thinking there at this point, or are you still looking at different options for the pergola?
It's actually a really competitive market. There's multiple options. They're all very similar products. So we have not awarded the job to a specific manufacturer. We're still in the process of picking one, but they're all relatively consistent. It's all very similar structure in product. So it's all powder coated, black finished, aluminum framed, louvered, weather tight system.
And JD, it sounds like you're concerned, and I can appreciate this. If you select one manufacturer, you've lost your opportunity to have a competitive
Good point.
choice.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, understandably. I feel like that's going to be really important. We, in the past, with the Goddard School, we said, subject to signing off on the shingle, what they ultimately picked in their shingle style, just giving it the okay. I'm sure you all have a fabulous taste, but that will be a really important feature on that. And I know they're all sort of similar, but do we want to?
Ned, can you call the presentation up or can you pull up the presentation from the last meeting, which shows the pergola, or JD?
I think so, take a minute.
I can share my screen at the meeting.
If you've got it, why don't you,
Okay.
I'll stop sharing.
Because I think there were a couple of different looks to the different options. But
See if I can do that. Sorry for flying through this, I apologize.
that's all right.
This is a good example of what the louvered roof system looks like. So it sits open like that when the weather's nice. And they do make other systems that are retractable. The reason we push for the louvered system is it also provides shade, and it does get a lot of sun out there. So we prefer the louvered. It functions as shade, fresh air, and then it also has the ability to close.
So I think, Meredith, your comment at last week's meeting was you didn't like as much the pergola on the right as you did on the ones on the left. Is that right?
Yeah, some I can see, if it's, you're building across the street, or some more of a warehouse style building, but because this is it's a little bit more of a formal building, you might say. I just am hoping, that the looks will complement the existing building, and I think the one maybe on the top left probably.
I mean, one
know.
thing,
I mean, you don't want to detract from it either, because there is a lot of detail in it.
Right.
So that's why I was just, I just didn't want it looking too industrial. I was thinking, but I mean, it's obviously going to be metal and black, but there's a lot of ironwork, and as long as it, worked with that, was just my concern with the metal fencing.
Would you
don't know.
add wording that says that the pergola would complement the metal fencing?
Or these, it's such a,
I think you could, this is why I said when we wanted to tie back to the presentation and the drawing
Right.
materials. I mean, oftentimes you would have the detail in the drawing. I understand in this scenario or in this particular case, this flexibility. So if there's one of these that's preferable, I think it could be called out. When the final, this isn't going to be an attachment. So if we wanted, let's say, to say that the preference is the design style of the one on the left two photos, then we can ask them to indicate that on this when they submit it.
it's hard to say.
JD, I have a question. Just looking at what's on the screen right now, it looks like the two images on the left were extracted from the image on the right. I mean, you can see the top of the umbrellas on the left-hand side. Is this all? Are those different? Is it one rendering that was prepared by one entity, or are these different? Are these images coming from different resources?
This is one manufacturer sent me their brochure of restaurants that they had done, and I pulled the images from their brochure. So it's the same product.
Okay.
With slight again. So there's customization. So one has a ceiling fan, the other ones don't. You can add different features, but it's the same manufacturer.
Okay. So
No,
JD, the level of detail on the right. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, JD. The level of detail on the right is just it's just not as apparent. But you're saying that it's the same. That image on the right is the same as the images on the left. You just can't see it as clearly.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I'm looking at it myself, Sean, trying to make that determination. Again, I pulled these from their brochure. It looks to me to be a very comparable product, maybe with slight modifications. The style and the look is certainly closer to the one on the left, I think, for clarity of what we're going for.
Okay.
So I think they all look really similar, but if the goal is to have a look like what it looks like on the left, I think we're all aligned.
So what I would suggest, if that's the case that the board would like to see, that when they submit this as one of the attachments, they could put a red box around the two images on the left. and say design intent, and then we're covered.
I want to ask, I want to come back to where you were going, because when we look at the image on the right, the most dominant features are the column and the perimeter of the structure. Do you know what I mean? When we circle the images on the left, those images are much more reflective of just that structure itself that has the louvers that open and closes. I don't know that that's addressing your concern.
But Sean, the one on the upper left has more detail on the column than the one on the right.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. If that satisfies your concern, then I'm,
Like a more expensive
okay.
quality.
Yeah, if that's,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're okay with that, I mean, I'm,
Yeah, the column on the left, if you could find something that has more of the column on the left, I think that.
And the horizontal beams. I mean, the one on the right does look way more industrial, to your point, with exposed bolts. The one on the left has a much less deep, more shallow horizontal I-beam going across, if it even is an I-beam. I think what they're showing here is that the louvers are the same, but you can get different structures. And
Exactly.
maybe
yeah.
the one on the right is just a bigger structure with more span, so it needs more steel to hold it up. So yeah, I mean, I guess in the beginning of this conversation, it didn't bother me, but now in looking at it, I would like to see something similar to the one on the left as opposed to the one on the right. So, yeah.
That's fine with me if that appeals to the board. I'm happy to circle the one on the upper left as a design intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, design intent is a great word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
metal mesh side that rolls down, is that, I'm just curious again, is that translucent or is it look like a
Yes,
metal sheet?
The lower left, you can actually see, it's, I know it's somewhat hard to
Oh,
see.
yeah.
But you see how it's a little bit more opaque?
Yes.
On that, so
Good,
there's,
okay.
again, it's a very competitive market. I'm sure you can imagine restaurants all across the country have them. So they have a lot of options for screens. They make screens that are really wind resistant that go down, but they also are completely opaque. So we're going to go with a screen that is, they call it an 86% screen, so it's high visibility, but it
Good.
also does provide bugs and a little bit of wind protection as well. So
That's great. That's perfect. That's what I was just hoping, that it didn't appear to be a solid metal.
no, it's high visibility screen.
Yep.
It's similar to a screen in a house, just a little bit thicker, just for commercial application.
That's great.
So maybe you can add that screen type to the PDF as well, when you're putting the box around the images.
Yep. And those cut sheets will be included. Yep. All right. That's
So
Any other-
I think this would have to have a slight modification to say slide deck dated May 13th with slide 36 updated May 22nd or something like that.
Slide number 36, is that it?
It's what it looks like on this one, Mike can tell, but if JD should confirm that.
Yeah, that's what my screen says 36.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have no others.
We should see if they're public before we
If
close
I-
the
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah.
JD, if you stop sharing and I can start sharing again, I'll just show you the language I put in.
Thank you.
So I added slide deck dated May 13, 2025 with slide number 36 updated on May 22, 2025.
Okay.
Okay?
That's great.
And I'll save this as a new final version and email it to Julia for execution.
Okay.
Cool.
So we'll get that signed off on right away. Okay, so is there anyone on Zoom, anyone in the public who would like to comment before we close the public hearing? Any hands?
I don't see anyone.
No hands? Okay. All right. All right, so at this time, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing for 2 Elliott Street site plan approval.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for 2 Elliott Street site plan approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. And now at this time, we can entertain a motion for approval of the 2 Elliott site plan approval as amended this evening.
Great. Yeah, sure, I'll make a motion to approve the public hearing, 2 Elliott Street site plan approval as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you all very much.
Terrific, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
Nice job.
Great.
Good luck. Yeah.
Yes, good job. And Ned, just real briefly, I'm sorry about, I know you had this, we had the 75 Revere Street that we wanted to have that heard. Unfortunately, Cheyenne is on vacation and the board never received a copy of the application and of the project, which I'm sure you had filed. But we also did not have confirmation that Cheyenne has reviewed it, which she probably did, but we were not aware of what
Okay.
review
Yeah,
process.
Julia called me earlier
Okay.
today, said it was going to be put off probably till June 12th, is that right?
Is that okay? I mean, we could, if
That's
it's
fine.
an emergency, we could try to call a Zoom meeting to,
It's
okay,
not an emergency, we can wait,
okay, all right. It'll definitely be on for June 12th, so apologies for that. Okay,
not at all, thank you.
okay. And then 270, it was the same situation with that. So we're going to move those
To June 12th
to
also.
June 12th also.
Ned, if you could email me that new language right now, I can run up and print it so we can sign this off.
Terrific, consider it on its way.
Nice job.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Thank you and congratulations. Great job.
Thank you.
It's a great project, so. So now, at this time, I would like to have, we need a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of pursuant to MGL, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss a response to an open meeting law complaint received on May 16th, 2025, filed by Spencer Kyle Johnson against the Milton Planning Board, and also in executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation entitling Johanning et al., Planning Board et al., Norfolk Superior Court, action number 2582CV00293. This litigation will need to be discussed in executive session rather than open session, as open session discussion may have a detrimental effect on the board's litigating position. And lastly, executive session, moving to executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, approval of executive session minutes, February 26, 2024, June 20th, 2024, August 14th, 2024, January 17th, 2025, March 13th, 2025, and March 27th, 2025. Is there a motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
Is there a
Thank
second?
you, Sean. Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Thank you all. Good evening. And we will not be returning to open session. Sorry, that's,
Can we do that once more with the graphic down? No,
yep, yeah.
all right, yes. Just.
Okay, just to make sure, I did not state, I would like to say, we will not be returning to open session.
right.
Thank you.